Hi everyone, this is Deb Tim and welcome to my channel. You know, the last video I made I talked about my worm bin. So this time I'm going to show you my worm bins, how I pack them, how I clean them, and you might even meet a couple of my worms. So please stay tuned. Welcome to my family room, affectionately known as my jungle. We really don't use this room much, so my ponds, plants, and worm bins have taken it over. In this corner is my 100-gallon tub pond, home to my two painted turtles, Franny and Frankie. They have a platform there and have an FX6 canister keeping their home clean. Frankie here comes to anyone who looks into the pond. He's a real people turtle. Even though I had Franny first, she is much more shy. They are a lot of fun though, and I'm so happy to have them. Then over here you can see my worm bin. That's my older worm bin. And then across in front of the window, of course, I have a lot of my plants. And then tucked in behind these is my 70-gallon tub pond, which is home to my 3 dojo loaches and my baby koi that I'm growing out from my outdoor pond. And there's Piper. Here is my setup for working on my worm bins. It's important to change their bedding, keeping it fresh and removing the castings so that they can make more. There you can see I have my cup of coffee, and it's a Tim Hortons no less. So there you can see the top layer of my worm bin, and this is a worm blanket. It feels like felt, but it's 100% organic. I cut it to fit and then soak it until it's nice and wet. And then I place a piece on the bottom of the bin and then cover the top with another piece. These are peat pucks that came with the new worm bin. I'm not really a fan of those. And this is the quintessential bedding for worms. It keeps the worms juicy and fat, their color darkens, and it toughens their skin, making them hardier, and they live longer. I'll show you what it looks like when I open the bag. It reminds me of dryer lint, actually. And then over here is my shredded paper. Actually, shredded bills. And it's a wonderful additive to my worm bin, and I think it's a wonderful place for my bills to go to. So you can see I have newspaper as the top layer. I also have newspaper as the bottom layer. I bought the worm blankets to give them a try. They look really good, and I think they will probably live longer than the newspaper. The newspaper breaks down quite quickly. So that's why I want to try the new blanket. Okay, so I have to really be careful because the worms get stuck or climb into the layers of paper. They actually eat the paper, so it is good for them, but it does break down, and you do have to change the newspaper out every, I don't know, a few weeks or so. So I'm just taking this. Oh, there's one. There's another one there. Okay, I'll just go toss this in the garbage. This next step is when we sort the worms and remove the soil. So this is where I can have a good check on the worms, make sure they're healthy, but honestly, they are so vibrant and healthy. I have yet to find a worm that I would call unhealthy. Now, in the event that I do find a worm that doesn't look up to par, I remove him and feed him right away. And my fish are happy to have him. And that way I don't risk any damage to my other worms. You have to be really gentle too, because if you're pulling a worm and he tears, you have to find the bottom half, which is his tail end, and that has to be removed. It's best to remove the whole worm and get it out of the thing, because trust me, they will go bad and they will start affecting the rest of your worm. So I keep doing this until I'm empty, and I will show you the bottom of the worm bin once I have it empty and ready to refill. Just to show you, the bottom of the worm bin has these holes, and then these are chutes that the worms can travel back and forth between bins. The idea is once the bin in the bottom is full of castings, they will travel to the next bin and start working on it. So let me show you what this wonderful bedding is like. I don't know if you can see in there. I don't have a good light here. It really does look like dryer lint. I should maybe start collecting that and see if that would have the same effect. You never know. So I'm shaking this into a basin, and then I will add water on top. This one bag I split between 2 layers. So I bought 2 bags of the bedding. It's quite expensive, so I don't use only the bedding. I mix it with some peat and a little bit of soil, and then of course the shredded bills, my favorite part. So I'm working the water into this, and you can put, I mean, it holds a lot of water. It probably holds 3 times its weight in water. So now I'm going to put the piece of worm blanket in the bottom. It's been soaking for a while, so it's really good and wet. Next, I layer some of this bedding there. Then I will grab a handful of my shredded bills, and then a couple handfuls of this mixture that the worms were in before. I had just changed the worm bins only not long ago at all, a couple weeks maybe. So the dirt that they were in is still fresh and usable. Very little castings in it. Now I'll just grab another handful of my shredded bills, and I'm working them just a little bit to mix it kind of together. And then a final layer of soil. And then I'm going to put my worms back in. Look at those beautiful, healthy worms. I'll just spread them out a little bit. There. And then I cover them with my worm blanket, tuck them all in, and then I pour some water on top, making sure everything is good and damp. The worms look good. And that's it. So here you can see my newer worm bin. I just want to show you what I feed them and how the worm bin looks when it's all set up. So this is cornmeal. That's their staple food. Besides cornmeal, they get just leftovers from meals, fresh vegetables, the cuttings when I'm trimming stuff, coffee grounds, tea bags, you name it, they'll eat it. But the cornmeal is truly perfect for them because it's simple to feed and they grow really well on it. So I just want to show you a couple of these worms. I don't know if you can see this, but they are lush and fat and juicy and slippery. Yes? Okay. But they look pretty good and they look pretty happy in their bedding. Let me get this one before he takes off. There. Okay. Now just give each layer a good shake of the cornmeal. Now this blanket is already quite dry, so whoop, there's one trying to get away. There, okay. Then I'll lift the top layer off, and the bottom layer is exactly the same. And each layer holds about, well, 100 worms for sure. And they do start breeding, but I just pick out the big ones and let the little ones grow. So again, I'm just sprinkling some cornmeal on for them. Not a lot, because they do get other food as well. Now these worm blankets are due for a soaking again. And now I just want to show you the very bottom, which is empty, and it catches the liquid that builds up and it turns into worm tea. And that, like the castings, is excellent for my plants. And I guess you're lucky because you get to meet some of my worms. I just picked out 20 worms, gave them a good bath, and laid them out so you can have a look at how rich and thick and juicy and, yes, slippery they are. But you know what? What surprises me the most? They look good enough to eat. So until next time, this is Deb Tim signing out. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something about worms, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye.